Hello you guys! I'm getting my hair cut. Rude. I am getting my hair cut today. And I'm really excited. I tried to cut my hair myself. I also just filmed my 6 by Santa video. I'm not sure if this is going to go up before or after that video. So you might be hearing this for the second time, but I tried to cut my hair myself. And it did not go so well. So I'm going to be getting my hair cut today, and I'm just really excited because it's been over a year and a half since I have gone to get my hair cut. Yep. And I'm going to go for like that long bob, but I have really thick hair, so I'm a little bit nervous to see how it's going to turn out because I feel like everyone on Pinterest has super beautiful hair, and then I'll probably be the loser over there with the not pretty hair. We'll see how it goes. Today's video I'm really excited about. Today's video is going to be all about tips, tricks, and lessons that I have learned through another year of project panning. So I have been project panning like seriously for 2 years now, and I feel like last year in 2018 was like obviously like me getting my toes wet in project panning, and I learned a lot, but I feel like I've really started to master my craft this year. Now I'm still no master panner by any means, but I do feel like I have learned a lot this year to like add on top of what I had already like started to learn in 2018. So if you guys are interested in my tips and tricks on project panning, whether that be because you are just bored and for some reason like my personality and listening to me talk, I'm joking, but if you're looking to like project pan yourself, or if you're just curious, then stay tuned for my tips and tricks. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, I hope you'll consider subscribing before you go. I hope you're not too weirded out by my personality yet. So if you're not, then go ahead and hit that subscribe button before we move on. But other than that, let's just jump into this video. So I was gonna do this get ready with me style, but I don't really have my life together enough to do that. I'm hoping, like, fingers crossed, like on my goals for 2020, I have to be better, or have on my list of things that I want to do more get ready with me's. In fact, on my dream board that I made, I put on a picture of me getting ready to like remind myself that one of my goals is to do get ready with me's more often. I'm actually just kidding about that, but it is a goal of mine. You guys probably think I'm really weird. I feel like I've been like in a really weird mood my last few videos, and by really weird I feel like I've just been more myself, which is really weird. Like, I'm very awkward, and also one of the weirdest people you will probably ever meet if you actually meet me in person. But my goal in life is to be as weird as possible, because what would life be if it wasn't fun and weird? You know, put that quote by your pillow now. So like I said, today's video is going to be all about my tips and tricks for project panning. If for some reason you don't know what a project pan is, my best description of it, which I'm very horrible at explaining things, is essentially like, so a project can truly be like, you can make it your own. You can choose for it to be like any length of time, but essentially it's just a project in which you are focused on either finishing up products or hitting pan on products. So essentially just working through your makeup collection in a sense. I started project panning by doing a year-long project pan in 2018 that was very unsuccessful. And I did another year-long project pan this year. If that video is already posted, my wrap-up or finale, I will link that so you guys can check that out. But essentially a project pan is just like a project in which you select products to work towards finishing up or hitting pan on. I maybe should have like Urban Dictionary'd the definition before filming this. Like I said, there's really no right or wrong way to project pan. Some people like to do year-long project pans. Other people like to do rolling style project pans, which I actually feel like I prefer, but for some reason I just keep doing year-long project pans as well. A rolling style project pan would be if you finish up a project, or if you finish up a product, or if you hit pan on a product, you hit goal on a product, you would then roll that product out and roll something in to replace it. It really doesn't matter what style of project pan you do. Just doing a project pan, you learn a ton about your personal makeup consumption and how long it actually truly takes to go through makeup. So again, there's really no right or wrong way to do it. It's just like, choose a way that works for you. And it took me a while to figure out the best way for me to pan, and I'm still kind of learning the best way. For a while I thought it was silly to like track the number of uses that it takes, or that you use a product, but around June of this year I started to track certain items just because I thought it was just like it took a lot of time to actually track the amount of uses. But I started like either tallying on the back of products, or I would write products down on a note card and tally my uses, and that has been super, super helpful. So that's not necessarily a tip on here, but it actually might be. It might be. We'll see as I get down my list. Anyway, I don't know where this video is going. So let's just jump into like tip number 1, or just like topic number 1. And it's really just around like why I love to project pan and why I think it's good for everyone to do a project pan. And that's because you truly learn so much about your makeup consumption, kind of like I just said. I used to think I could use a bronzer up in a week. So I would be like afraid to use my bronzer, and then I would just keep buying and buying and buying bronzer because I thought that it was going to take me 5 days to use up a bronzer. And then I did a project pan and realized a mini Hoola bronzer by Benefit I couldn't even finish up in a year. So projects truly are good for everyone because you learn so much about your makeup consumption needs. At the beginning of this year, I had like 46 blushes, and I've never hit pan on one blush in my life. So I truly have enough blush to last an eternity. Project panning also helped me not be as afraid to use my products. Kind of like I just said, I would be afraid to use a bronzer because I thought I was going to immediately use it up. I used to be one of those people that just was afraid to use her makeup because I knew when it was empty, I would have to replace it or buy it again or whatever. Project panning has taught me to use what I have and not be afraid to use my makeup collection, which sounds super silly, but it's truly a lesson that I have learned from project panning. So tip trick lesson number 2, sorry if I have a notes that I'll be referencing, is to think about what you're choosing and ask yourself if it makes sense for your day-to-day consumption. And also if you're choosing, like, say you're choosing 10 products for a project, you probably don't want to choose like 5 blushes and 3 bronzers. You just maybe want to choose like 1 or 2 of each item. So for me, I'm doing 20 and 20, and I'm choosing 3 foundations, but I know that if I focus on them, like I can use up a foundation in like a month and a half. Blush, like I said, I've never hit pan on. So if I'm doing a project, I usually only want to choose like 1 blush to focus on. So really be thoughtful and really be mindful about the products that you're choosing for your project. You don't want to have them competing with one another. Again, if you have 5 different blushes, well, each blush is going to be competing with the other. So I recommend choosing like 1 to 2 of each product. I personally find that liquid products are easier to pan than, or to use up than powder products. So just things to keep in mind as you're kind of selecting the products that you are going to use or work on in your project pan. Tip number 3 is that if you are miserable using a product, I'd recommend just decluttering it. In my 2018, there were products that I was truly miserable using. And it made me not excited to do my makeup, and that's not the point of a project pan. That's not the point of makeup. Makeup is supposed to be fun, it's supposed to be creative, it's supposed to put you in a good mood, it's supposed to make you feel better about yourself. So if something is making you feel not pretty and is making you feel uninspired or like not excited to use it, you may just want to pass that product along. You may just want to declutter that product because that's not the point of makeup. And I finally learned that this past year. So in 2019, I had started my project with 2 blushes in my project pan, and I was getting so frustrated. And it wasn't even because I didn't like the blushes, but because I knew I was not going to be successful in either of them. So I actually ended up rolling one of the blushes out and replacing it with a different item. I also was miserable using a concealer this year, but I did finish that up because I was so close to being done with it. But if it had been like a brand new concealer and I hated every second of it, I'm just going to declutter products going forward like that, because I just don't see a point in using a product that doesn't make you feel pretty, or a product that truly just makes you not feel good to use. Number 4, I kind of touched on a little bit earlier, but if you are feeling unmotivated, track the number of times that you are using a product. I think like sometimes I like see no progress and think, oh, like I haven't used that product at all, but then For example, I'm currently working on a blush trio from NARS, and if I wasn't tracking the number of times that I used that blush, I would feel really uninspired and unmotivated. But I know that within the last 2 or 3 months, I've used that blush trio 27 times, maybe it's 23. Regardless, I've used it quite a few times. So like I said, I used to think it was silly to track the number of times that you were using a product, mostly just because, not silly, that's not the right word, I just thought it would be time consuming and a bit of a hassle, but it truly does help keep you like remotivated and re-inspired to look how many times you've actually used a product. Or you can look at it and like, sometimes I've probably thought I've used a product like 20 times and I'm like, why am I not seeing any progress? And then I'll look at my number tracking and I'll be like, oh, I've actually really only used that 5 times. I feel like I've used it a lot more than 5 times. So tracking the number of times that you've used your products can be super helpful, again, in just learning about your makeup consumption. Tip number 5 is, if you can, find a way to multi-purpose an item. This is something that project panning it's a lesson that I've truly learned from project panning. So I used to think like liquid highlights you could truly only use as a liquid highlight. I never considered like putting it on my legs or putting it on my body as like a body shimmer. Blush you can use as eyeshadow, bronzer you can use as a neutral transition shade, which is amazing. There's really so many different ways you can use makeup rather than like their intended purpose, if you will. And the more that you can multi-purpose an item, the easier it's going to be to pan potentially, because you're using it in more ways than just that one way that it's intended to be used. Lesson number 6, or tip number 6, that I've really learned this year is to choose products to put in your project that you like to use, but potentially not products that you would replace when you finish. So for my 19 and 2019 project, because my 18 and 2018 had gone so poorly, I really chose products that I loved. But then I started to realize, okay, like when I finish these, I'm gonna replace them anyway. So for my 20 and 2020 project, I am choosing products that I like but wouldn't probably replace when I finish them, because then I'm moving products out of my collection that will make room for either more products that I want to bring in, or will help me to decrease my makeup inventory. Either way, it's kind of a win-win. But again, you want to make sure you're choosing products that you won't despise using. So products you like, but probably wouldn't repurchase. That's just like a personal like preference of mine, and a tip that I would recommend if you are trying to work on your makeup inventory and not have such like a plethora, or if you're just trying to make space in your collection to bring in new products. You definitely want to work on panning products then that you know you won't be replacing. Tip number 7, I also just realized I only have 9 tips, not 10, so I'm very sorry for being misleading. Okay, so tip number 7 is to take pictures, and potentially if you are someone who wants to like invest in a scale, I know you can usually get scales on Amazon for like 10 bucks. I personally don't have a scale. I'm considering, but I don't know if I'm like that serious of a painter, but at least taking pictures or marking like liquid products so that you can track your progress. I know that for me personally, sometimes I think like, oh my gosh, like I've seen no progress in this product, but then I'll compare my picture of like the previous month and I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, like I actually have expanded that pan quite a bit, and that can be very, very motivating. So I definitely recommend finding a way to track your progress, even more than just tracking like the number of times that you're using it. Take pictures, mark stuff. It really does help to keep you motivated. Tip number 8 is do not be too hard on yourself and just stick with it. If you need to take a break from your products for a week that you're project panning, then so be it. And then just the next week, start back over with your project pan items. I know for me, between March and June, I was like going hard on my project pan items, and then I got a little bit burnt out by them. So I took like a week or 2 and just set all of my project pan items aside for a little bit and started to really play around with other products in my collection. And then eventually I found my way back to my project pan items. So don't be afraid to take a break from your project pan items. You know, it might be a situation where maybe you use your project pan items days that you go to work, and then when you don't work, maybe those are the days that you're creative and you're reaching for other products within your collection that aren't necessarily in your project pan. It doesn't have to be that you only use your project pan items, because if that were the case, I couldn't do a project pan personally. So again, just don't be too hard on yourself. Don't be afraid to take breaks from your products, and eventually just find your way back to those products. And again, if products are making you miserable, toss them in the, get rid of them. Just get rid of them. So then my final lesson is something that I kind of already touched on at the beginning, but it's really just to find a way that project panning works for you. Again, a year may be way too long for you to do a project pan. Maybe you only really want to do 3 months. Maybe every 3 months you switch out your products. Maybe you do the rolling style. Maybe you only focus on 5 products at a time. Maybe you focus on 10 products at a time. I personally have found it really fun to find different like themed ways to do project pans. 2 that I was a part of this year is the roulette pan collab, which you randomly generate a number that correlates to a prompt, and you select products based on that prompt, which has been really fun because that kind of, I don't want to say puts you outside of your comfort zone, but you potentially choose products that you never would have thought about panning. And then I also was a part of the graveyard project pan, which was really fun. That was a project themed around products that have either already been in another project and you were unsuccessful in meeting your goals, or products that are getting old in your collection. A 10th tip that I kind of just thought of too is, if you can, do your project with other people, collaborate with people, join a huge effort, because I have found that I've been most successful in my collaborative projects because it's so much fun. Everyone else is cheering you on, you're cheering everyone else on. Like, you really want to be successful in your projects. You really want to be successful with your products because everyone's cheering each other on. And I just think that that is incredible. I love the panning community here on YouTube, Instagram, etc. I feel like everyone is just so motivating and so inspiring to one another. So find a group that helps cheer you on and motivates you. And like I said, just find a way that panning works for you. What works for me isn't going to work for the next person. Truly make it your own. I just, thinking back to like little baby panning me and how I thought that it could only be done a certain way. And I've grown so much as a panner in the last 2 years, but just find a way to make it fun, make it your own, make it unique. And I am so excited to hear about all of your panning journeys in the year to come. Let me know down below if you are planning to do a project in 2020. I know I will be doing the 20 in 2020. I know I will be doing Pan Those Eyeshadows, which is such a fun project. Love that one, highly recommend. And then hoping to be a part of more collabs in the panning community this next year as well. So that concludes today's video. Thank you so much for sticking around to watch, and I will catch you guys in my next video. Bye.